Welcome back to the Fast Life Podcast. We have a great show for you today with Kyle Ray Rice, a little chopper builder. I say little, he's a grown man. But first, I want to help you guys spend those stimulus checks. You need to check out my dude John Jessup and his shop in Stockton, California. It's a spot for in-house dyno tuning, parts, service, and bike sales. And if nothing else, head on over to teamdreamrides.com, which is offering 100 days same as cash financing on all products. All you need is a job and a bank account and a stimulus check. Don't forget to give John and the team a follow at DreamRidesJohn on Instagram. My dudes at Lex and Moto are growing fast and looking to onboard new dealers. So if you're a shop and you're looking to add some great products to your inventory, check out Lexan. It doesn't matter if you're a small shop or a 20,000 square foot mega store, Lex and Moto has a partnership that will work for you with awesome new gear and more on the way. I wear these headsets and they are legit. I do not wear any other ones. I have not. I don't know as far as what to compare them to, but they do everything I need them to do. I listen to podcasts while I ride my Harley Davidson at 90 miles an hour down the highway. That's testament enough, in my opinion. But like I said, check them out, sales at lexandmotorcycle.com, and be sure to check them out on Facebook at LexandMoto USA and on Instagram at LexandMoto. And don't forget, if you guys are interested in getting yourself a headset, you can go to lexand-moto.com and use Fast Life at checkout for 15% off. Man, I struggled through that one. It's Monday, guys. Give me a break. Paint Hover Metal Flake is killing the paint game with tons of great flakes, pearls, and other paint-related products. Check out the vast amount of things at painthuffer.com and get yourself stocked up on some custom paint gear, flakes, pearls, tapes, and other things needed in the custom paint process. And don't forget to use Fast Life 13 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. ThunderMax is going strong through these strange times. As I've said many times, ThunderMax is your go-to for auto-tuning ECMs for your EFI-equipped Harley-Davidson. Along with their iRide rear suspension that auto-adjusts height for you on the fly. It's pretty robotically amazing. And last but not least, their Touring M8 electric fan that has made a significant difference on my bike, my personal bike. To get more info on these products, head over to shoptmax.com and follow ThunderMax EFI on Instagram. Yeah, it's Monday. I'm struggling through these ads. I'm sorry, guys. Great weekend. Had fun, I think. Did nothing. It's the first time I stayed home. Just Saturday, I stayed home the entire day. Didn't even leave the house, and that's weird for me because I'm used to being here at the shop at least for a minute every day just to check on things and whatnot. But strange times, man. It really is. And, I'm getting constantly hit up about, our Campout, which, hate it or not, I'm still planning on pulling it. I'm still planning on doing it, man. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm a dumbass for doing it, but, I don't know. I just feel like let people make that decision on their own. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like America's supposed to be about, right? If we want to put ourselves in harm's way like we do every day on a motorcycle, then we should be able to jump on a bike and ride it to something and hang out with 30, 40, 50 people. We were expecting, closer to the 150 range, but I know it's not going to happen with this kind of pandemic going on. So I'm sure that the people that are just really wanting to get out are going to make it. And, I'm just fucking up here. Anyway, you guys, we're going to try to put it off. If things get significantly worse, then we'll end up postponing it the week of. But as of now, the way things are kind of moving, I think we're going to just go ahead with it. So anyway, if you're interested in going to that, it's Thursday, April 23rd through the 26th at Kriver Campground in Moyers, Oklahoma. So you want to come. Not, don't worry about it. It's not for you. This podcast is with Kyle Ray Rice. I met this dude. I think I met him. I don't know if I met him or not, but I saw his bike, his FXR, that he did everything on. He built everything. Did the seat, did the paint, did the fabrication, everything. And I think that shit's amazing and pretty cool, and really excited to see this dude grow into something pretty serious in our industry. I think he already is someone pretty serious. So anyway, I'm going to stop this shit show of an intro right quick and just let you guys check out this podcast we got for you. Here you go.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
Hey man. Oh. I don't know if you need video or whatnot.
It's just it's better because you can like see each other talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
We used to do the phone thing, and you like constantly like want to interrupt each other because you can't see the social cues of somebody like stopping to talk and whatnot. So this to me this feels better. So
yeah, I understand that.
Kyle, man, what's up? How old are you now?
26.
Damn.
I know. I just turned 27 actually a couple days ago.
That's not bad, man.
But yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've I've kind of always been into motorcycles, so I started pretty young. But
so what'd you start out with? Like, what got you in the bug of bikes, or what got you in the bug of just like being creative? You know what I mean? Because you're kind of a jack of all trades in the sitch, and
yeah, jack of all trades, master of zero. That's how
I'm the same way, man.
Yeah. Sometimes it sucks though, because so many other people can do things a lot better than Yeah. But yeah, so I've always kind of drawn and stuff, and the art class was kind of a big thing for me. So I've always had the ability to draw. And then motorcycles was always there. My family was pretty involved in it, I guess. I'm pretty blessed to be landed where I am as far as a family situation. Mm-hmm. We're always kind of infatuated with motorcycles. But my first bike was actually a PW50. Mm-hmm. It had training wheels. I was like, I don't know, 3 or 4, something like that. I was pretty young.
Yeah.
But but it's always been a thing, and I've always not till recently though. I mean, I didn't really try. I didn't think it was like a possibility until more recently to actually build motorcycles. I always thought that was kind of out of reach.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, the first time I ever saw your work or heard of you was at the Ace Cafe show back in what was it, 2018? When you had your FXR out there?
Was that 2017 or 18? I can't remember. They only did that once though.
Should have been 18. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so like I showed up. I was on my FXR that year, and my buddy Joe Kidd and Chris Harry, 2 FXR nerds, they were like nerding out on your bike because they were like, dude, you got to check out this dude's bike. He built everything himself. He did the paint. He did all this shit. And I was like, well, fuck, man. And they played you out like you were a toddler. You know what I
mean? No, I'm not that young.
Yeah, not that young. But at the same time, man, like all the skills that you've kind of acquired to do what you do, could take, guys 10, 15, 20 years to do. So like my age, I'm 37 going on 38. So, you know what I mean? Like you can do a lot of shit that I've tried, but I have never gotten to your level at,
Well, yeah, sometimes it's all a little smoke and mirrors. But, sure. I kind of just was a recluse for a little while. I spent a lot of time in the garage and just practicing stuff. The only thing I was really formally trained in was welding. Mm-hmm. But I remember that show, and I actually remember seeing your gold FXR there. I wish they would actually do another one of those Ace Cafe shows. Yeah. But I know Giselle's doing flat track stuff, and I haven't really heard much from Jordan. He doesn't really even post that much anymore.
Yeah, wasn't he running he was running the like performance bagger page, or was it performance Harley Davidson?
It was performance Harley. It was either Harley or HD.
I think it was
I can't remember. HD. I haven't seen him post any. Like, he disappeared. Like, I haven't heard from him, in months. So. Yeah. I really don't know what happened to him, but that was the first show that kind of introduced me to like the more performance Harley side, because like I knew a lot about FXRs and dynos. I didn't know like the West Coast part of it, where people were kind of just that flavor they're throwing on it. But that show is what made me want a twin cam, actually, because my FXR, I don't know if you remember that, I had a shovel head, and that bike never really worked out for me, to be honest. It just typical shovel head shit. And I remember that was the first time I actually saw Harley stunt riders, and I've been around like stunt riders and stuff. Yeah, but I saw the way they're just dogging on those goddamn twin cams. And, that was really when I realized, fuck, man, you can't do that on a shovel head,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you can, but your shit's got to be right. So that actually, a couple weeks after that, I ended up buying that Dyna that I built more recently, actually. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man. That's actually Joe Kidd actually introduced me to your podcast through that. Actually, he messaged me and said he mentioned me in or something, and I was like, oh, cool. I didn't really know what podcasts were. I've heard of Joe Rogan before. I knew he had a big podcast at the time, and
he still does.
yeah. Oh, well, obviously, but no. My first introduction to podcasts was actually your motorcycle podcast. So,
appreciate it.
I mean, I'll say it again and again. I'm a fan first, So it's pretty cool to be on this. To be honest, I'm a little nervous, but
I can tell. Drink a beer, man.
Yeah,
I saw you with the premieres over there. It's all good. No, well,
yeah. Try to calm my nerves a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So what actually got you to the point, like, so you're doing a lot of art, because I've seen, your posts here and there, like you've done like a lot of drawings too. And like the sketches you do for your concepts are actually pretty badass in themselves. You know what I mean? Like I could tell you're a lot like me in the idea that like you will sit there and draw on paper and get these ideas out of your head. And then the next step is to build it. It's kind of like you're the architect and the construction worker. You know what I mean? And that's what I've always considered myself to be as well. Like that's the fun,
Yeah, well, I don't know. I've always been able to kind of draw. It was kind of one of my strong suits.
Yeah.
But I didn't really do anything with it for a while, actually, to be honest. So when I was in high school, I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. Mm-hmm. And I went to school for mechanical engineering, and I kind of always had this assumption that mechanical engineers actually built shit. It's not really that case. I mean, and once you get so far in schooling, you start realizing, maybe this isn't what I want to do.
Yeah.
So for a little while, I kind of messed around, didn't really do much with it. I always wanted to go to an art school near here. I never really did, but art was still kind of the thing, I wanted to do. But a couple years ago, actually, I've always my dad's a really big car guy, and he pretty much, I was always in the garage working on stuff. He never really built anything. He restored stuff.
Yeah.
So I grew up kind of doing body work and shit like that, doing a little light metal fabrication, just tacking with a MIG. I knew how to MIG weld, and I kind of knew how to STIG weld. I didn't really know how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
But I decided, when I first started building or wanting to build this motorcycle, I was just working retail. Like I wasn't making any money, and I wanted all these nice bikes, and I knew I couldn't afford it. So really kind of learning how to do stuff just came from being really, really poor, But so I decided one day, I'm just going to put all my money into probably going to welding school or something. Just welding. I've always kind of idolized welders.
Yeah.
I thought they were fucking cool. My grandfather was a welder, and that's where a lot of this shit comes from. My grandfather, he built choppers back in the 60s and 70s. Cool. And he'd actually we've kind of got some photos of him just building shit. He just built a lot of shit. He was pretty much the only guy with an arc welder in the 60s. So all the hippies would come to him, and he would cut the necks off the bikes, stretch the front ends, and build these super, super sketchy death traps. and they'd be on their way. But so I kind of always idolized him in that way, and I just wanted to build something. And fuck, man, I ended up going to welding school, and I ended up. I think my teacher kind of took me under his wing because I was in there. I was very clear of why I was in there. I didn't really care about getting a welding job. Didn't really care about any of that. You know, when he went around the class and asked everyone, "Hey, why are you here?" Everyone would be like, "Well, I heard welders make a lot of money," which they don't in Florida. They really don't. It's really bad.
Yeah.
But they'd be like, "Well, I got to get a certification for my work or something, so someone here is certified to weld steel."
Yeah.
Stuff like that. When he got to me, I said, "Well, I just want to build hot rods and motorcycles, man." He kind of realized, hey, I don't know. I think he just kind of wanted to teach me. I wanted to soak it up. I've always felt like you got to be a sponge now, especially with everyone having access to all this information. You might as well soak it up. But he was a pretty badass dude. He was an aviation welder, actually. Mm-hmm. So, and he owned his own aviation company that did military contracts and stuff. So they worked with a lot of exotic metals. Yeah. He taught me a lot. He taught me how to purge off pretty much anything, how to, all sorts of different setups, how to weld titanium, how to weld stainless. I mean, it's all kind of the same, but, how to build a trailing cup, all that stuff, he was just a really cool dude who just happened to help me out. And I mean, it's all a lot of, just running into the right place and the right time. And I kind of just started building, but I mean, I really kind of dove in deep, to be honest. I ended up finding that shovel head motor at a swap meet in Webster, which is a big swap meet. Some people might recognize the name.
Yeah.
So it's mostly chopper stuff.
Did you find an FXR shovel head, or did you just find an FXR frame and then start cutting it up? Or I don't think your frame was really cut up. I just think you made parts to it, right? The
frame's cut up.
Oh, it is?
So,
okay.
Yeah, so that bike's kind of a Frankenstein clusterfuck. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's a 92 FXLR. Mm-hmm. So it's not a shovel head frame. But even with that, it's actually mated to a late model primary and a late model transmission. So it's got the oil pan underneath. It's a touring transmission, so it's oil pan underneath. Done no oil bags. Nice. And I found that frame. The guy who sold me the frame and the motor, he actually fit up the primary and the transmission in it. It's a really cool setup. That's
cool. So you're running an open belt primary and all that stuff?
No, it's enclosed. It's just an FLH primary. Yeah, it's an FLH.
And it bolts up to the shovel head? That's crazy.
Say what?
And it bolted up to the shovel head case and everything?
Well, he made it bolt up. So I found that, and it was like love at first sight, Yeah. I ended up scooping that. It was just the frame. It was just the frame with the motor and the transmission fit up, and it actually had the wheels on it too. It was pretty much almost a bike, but it had no tank, no tens, none of that shit. But I didn't really care about that. I was just looking for good bones. Yeah. And I can tell the moment I saw, because it's actually a monster shovel head. This guy had this wild idea eventually. So that motor, it's a motor he was building for his drag bike. Mm-hmm. So it's a 108 cubic inch shovel head.
God damn.
It's a big fucking shovel head. And he was building it for his drag bike originally. It was going to be this crazy dual plug shovel head drag bike, naturally aspirated. And at some point, I guess he said, I'm done drag racing, so I'm going to put this in an FXR frame. Well, he got that far, and he ended up buying back one of his old drag bikes, I guess, and decided to sell that. And luckily, I was able to scoop in at the right time, and kind of just got creative with it. And, I had a drawing of a motorcycle I wanted to build and went at it.
Yeah. But I noticed that you sketch out the whole bikes too. And that's actually pretty cool. I've I've never gotten to the point where you're at, where like I would draw the bike and fabricate it. I think the only time I've ever used a welder on any of the bikes I've done is like I welded up. I drilled some holes in my T-bars once, and I ran the brake lines to it. And just to clean up the edges, I just kind of ran a bead around the edges. That is the extent of my welding on any motorcycle bike I've ever done. Because I ended up I bought a TIG welder because I got really into it, and I wanted to like, you know, at least kind of do my own exhaust, kind of shit like that, like what you do on yours and stuff, and and you know, make my own parts. And man, like when I was in my 20s, I had so much time to do so much shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I spent it chasing ass. You know what I mean? So now that I'm like, I'm a little slower in my life, but it's like, I wish that I just had not as much responsibility so that I can just literally stay in the shop all night, every day. And, you know, just fucking tinker with all these ideas that you want to kind of jump on. So it's tough, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one thing. I pretty much sacrificed my entire social life just to build motorcycles for, you know, the past couple of years. But it's common. I just wanted to get that foundation. You know, it's important. I think it's important for anyone, you know, around my age to try to get that foundation going now.
Yeah.
So you don't have to try to, you know, get it later on. Especially, you know, I feel a little bit more comfortable doing stuff, you know, painting, still not super comfortable with. I fucked up a couple things, but
I fuck up now.
It's pretty easy to do that, apparently.
Yeah. Well, you know, you made a good point about like having the foundation, because that's kind of the thing that I've noticed myself with the pouring in of people asking questions about paint jobs and how to paint. People listen to this podcast and want to get into paint, and it's like, It to me, since I've lived my life, it doesn't look this way. But I started painting at 21. I grew up in a body shop, like you were saying. Like my dad restored cars. I remember my childhood summers was aircraft stripper on fenders and doors, and getting it on my skin and running and putting it in water. And stuff, you know what I mean?
Washing it with lacquer thinner and shit.
So that was I grew up in that, and so when I'm like where I'm at now in my career, which is still nowhere near as far as a lot of other people that I really look up to that's even younger than me, it still has taken me, you know, actively custom painting bikes. It's taken me since 2004 to get where I'm at, doing it every day as a career. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're okay. From what I can tell, that last paint job you did that's the shit I fucking love. That gray one. Oh man, the gray Dyna.
You know, that dude is actually from Jacksonville. He's a good friend of mine.
Really?
We were talking about that because that project has been we started talking about that project in June of last year. And he's a very simplistic guy. He also has a gray, like a CVO Road Glide that's the same color gray. It's got like a gold swing arm and all that shit on there. And he's real simple. He's not into like all the flashy shit, but he wants something flashy, but he doesn't want it flashy. You know what I mean? So the compromise to me was, you know, well, can I put some gold? Can I do something so that it's a custom paint job and not just another factory looking FXR paint scheme, you know? And we did that. And then like, it's so far, it's like one of our most liked paint jobs, but it sucks that like, I didn't draw a sketch for that bike. I just did it. Right. And so I was telling him, I was like, man, I sit here and I'll crumple up 100 sheets of paper and ideas and designs, and I'll redraw the same one 5 times and figure out the color scheme. And then I'll do that paint job, and that one's cool. Everybody's, oh yeah, I love that paint job. But this one that I gave no fucks about is the one that is defining me as a painter in my career now. It's kind of weird. It fucks with your head, you know? It's not that I'm not appreciative that people dig that paint job. It just sucks that like, it's not something that I poured myself into. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I can understand that. Sometimes some of the best shit though comes from just like winging it. That's what you're talking about, how like doing the drawings of stuff, and like sometimes that's almost a bad thing, because sometimes you get so asphyxiated on like, hey, like this has to be like this. You know, especially because when you draw something, it's not really atomically correct, like at all. It's hard to scale everything perfectly, and it all changes as you go. So, I mean, yeah, like in my opinion, I think that paint job though, like I don't know what it was about it. Like it was just the right amount of simplicity and like just.
Well, it's true, but it's also like, you know, as a culture, we go through different phases where certain colors appeal to all of us, right?
Yeah.
And right now, like, so, you know, if you look back in time, you got, you know, that 90s Miami vibe, which was that turquoise and teal and purple.
Which is coming back.
Yeah. But, you know, these kind of, or like the 80s in general was this like neon flavor of like electronic, like it was a flavor of the society that we were in. And I feel like right now in the last, like, I would say about 5 years, it's been in a very industrial kind of, almost back to the 90s kind of vibe. You know, the 90s was kind of defined by like grunge music and a little bit more of a darker era in time. You had guys like, you know, like just movies were a little bit more darker and things like that. And then the 2000s was kind of poppy and back to the let's be happy again. And now it's kind of getting grungy again. And it's kind of weird if you start looking at color schemes over the years. And I'm saying color schemes for paint jobs, but at the same time, like what I'm talking about is like every car manufacturer has a gunship gray car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it used to be all about candy red, and then they wanted some lime green cars, and now people are doing primer gray on everything, basically.
Yeah, I know. That's the shitty part about it. Like that color, like no matter how much I like it, like every time I see it, I'm like, it looks like primer with clear coat over it. Exactly. but there's something about it. Like it's just that, especially like I think the only color right now I can paint is black, which is just a body work. You just got to be all right at body work to paint black. But I'm so afraid to paint candy and shit like that. I haven't tried it yet.
You know, I've been helping a few people out, and I have an apprentice right now that's working with me. And, you know, all my friends that paint, I try to emphasize this. I wish I would have took this advice of myself, but to me, it's more importantly to do a good quality job than say you did all this shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like do it like I'm trying to like rephrase that so everybody will understand, but instead of like, I want to do a candy painted, leafed out, crazy, like what I'm doing, but you don't know how to do this stuff. You want to do what I'm doing, but you don't know how to do it, right? So you're going to try it. You're going to run into a cesspool of issues that took me years to figure out. You know, it's probably easier to figure out now because guys like me are willing to help people out and shit. But, you know, instead, like what makes good paint jobs, in my opinion, is quality, period. If you can only do a solid color, perfect, do that. And then start work from that perfection up instead of, well, let me just throw all this shit on here and then I'll start learning how to do quality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So like if you take like mini truck paint jobs used to be the biggest thing. Like there's guys out there that built some really badass mini trucks and did some really nice paint jobs on them. But the majority of the people that were at those little body drag shows, whatever they used to fucking call them, were shitty fucking paint jobs. You know what I mean? But it was just busy. For sure. So people, they didn't really notice the shitty quality clear coat or the shitty quality base coat because it had orange and green and this and all this crazy shit going on. You know what I mean? So
you probably didn't have to do any body work to them either.
Yeah, because the lines were going crazy. You couldn't follow anything. So I just tell people always, you know, like try to focus on doing the best you can at your ability and practice and get yourself up instead of doing it on customer shit, you know? So
yeah, exactly. I mean, it'll be a long time before I try to do a paint job for someone else, you know, like my shovelhead. I'm sure you saw the paint job up close at Ace Cafe. It's not the greatest. I actually fucked up really bad on it.
Yeah, I saw the spots, but it's not. It's not that. You know, to me, like I've always said this, like it's unfair to ever criticize somebody's. What do you call it? Like, I would never criticize your art, but you can criticize people's quality as far as finished work because that's supposed to be this. Like, there's nobody's like, well, you know, the runs are supposed to be there. It's part of the art. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's not, dude. It's not how this works.
Yeah. But just wet sand it. And
Well, it is what most flaws are in paint jobs is laziness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's how much you're going to go back and fix your flaws How are you willing to start over if you fuck up too bad? That's another big thing that a lot of people aren't really adept to do. So, but I mean, at the same time, man, my shit at the beginning wasn't the best, and I'm not saying your shit wasn't good. I'm impressed. I'm impressed because you did everything, and that to me that warrants a level of respect, because it's very complicated. Like you said in the beginning of this podcast, it's very hard to be good at everything, but doing it all gives you a sense of pride that a lot of people can't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll tell you a funny story about that paint job and why it looks like it does, which it's a total goddamn mistake. So the leaf, I did one helmet and got this confidence that, I can do gold leaf and silver leaf, but, yeah. I bet I can do this motorcycle. Yeah. So it was actually kind of coldish here, which, I mean, it really only gets down to like 35 or so, but it was one of those nights. But I was inside the garage, and I laid all the size, and I made my first mistake is I laid all, like on the tank, I laid out all the size at once. And I know, like, I just couldn't keep up with it. Yeah. But if you look at that bike, like it looks like it's like a real tattered and shit. That's because I couldn't get the dry time correctly on the silver leaf. And I remember freaking out. I was laying all the silver leaf and it looked fine. Well, when I went to hit the brush, it was still wet in spots. Like there was like little spots. I just
tear through.
It was just not knowing what I was doing. Yeah. I got lucky one time doing it and thought I had the timing correctly.
I still get it now, dude. When I went to California, me and my wife in January, and I went to my buddy Gerald from Valley Customs. I was hitting him up because I've been struggling with gold leaf. I got silver down to where I understand it really well, but gold leaf is kind of like what you just said for me. Like one day I'm fucking nailing it, and the next day, once that confidence is there and I'm not thinking about the problems I had, bam, all of them come back. So like that the gray bike we were just talking about, I knew that I was going to gold leaf that bike. So I started asking my friends, and I went out there, I was hanging out with him, and he kind of just showed me his process, which I'm very grateful for. You know what I mean? Because, in a lot of sense, me and him are very relatively close competitors in our market. We both kind of market to the Dyna performance crowd, but, we are both friends. So we, you know what I mean? We're good with each other. So if he has questions, I help him and blah, blah, blah. But dude, the same thing, man. Like I had to figure that shit out too, because I would do a gold leaf thing and then I'd fuck up a gold leaf thing, and I'd have to do it 40 times until it looks halfway decent. I just want to be good at it as well. So it's
well, that's good to know. Yeah. I felt pretty bad at the time. I mean, luckily I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not fixing this. Like, I'm either going to have to sand it all off or do something. So I was like, I'll just clear coat it. Yeah. So, I clear coated it. I was like, at the time I was like, it doesn't look bad. Whatever. I'll leave it as is. But that's one of the big reasons I want to redo that bike. I'm actually going to tear it down that and just, I'm taking up another project, but I figured I can redo all the body work, make it something more like I want to add a passenger seat to it, make it something more like the more recent build I did. Just it's got more of an updated taste to it, I guess. A little different style, but
so you still have the FXR still?
Say what?
You still have the FXR and everything still?
Yep. Yeah. Nice. I'm going to take that same bike and cut it up and redo it. This weekend, I'm actually going to build a swing arm for it. So that's going to be cool. But that's also I'm wanting to get at is start making jigs for stuff. I mean, I got a little ways before I actually consider making parts and stuff. Just because I'm still new to this. I don't want to jump off and start selling stuff to people. But you
got time, man. You got time, and if you stay on the path that you are, and just stay connected and keep building shit like you are, then whether it's a year from now or 10 years from now, like you're going to be one of the top guys in the industry if you just stay consistent with it. So
yeah, well. Yeah, I just want to build bikes, you know. I'm not really too concerned in that.
Yeah, as long as I'll always have your back as long as you build bikes and ride them. I don't want to ever see you get so big that you're driving around in an 18-wheeler and unloading bikes and shit and selling T-shirts all day.
Oh no. I got to find a screen printer, man. Like I tried to take on screen printing as a hobby and I realized I just don't want to do it. It's it's a little just, you know, it's just one of those things I just don't want to do.
Yeah.
It's monotonous. But yeah, I need to find someone to actually screen print shirts, but I'm pretty disorganized, you know. That's one of my biggest flaws. And I'm really bad at, you know, following through with stuff like that. I mean, if it's for someone else, then I'll do it. But like some of my shit, it's just fuck, man. Like I'm never gonna,
you know, is sometimes though, like once you start finally, if you're not, I don't know yet, but once you start taking money for doing things, and that helps kind of focus you on stuff, because now you have a responsibility to fulfill something, as opposed to if you're always just doing it for yourself, then you're always going to be your biggest hurdle, versus like someone pays you to do something, or that someone offers you to pay you, or whatever the case may be, then you feel obligated to get paid to finish the job that you're being paid to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I don't want to let people down. I don't want to kind of ruin any reputation that I could possibly have, you know, especially this early on in my career. But you know, stuff I do, like sometimes I'll stand there and stare at it and shit. So like it's hard to get, you know, certain stuff done. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, I have it quite, you know, I'm not there to where I'm going to start selling parts just yet, but I'm bouncing around the idea. I like the idea of just making like a short number of things, you know, just because it's hard, because a lot of the stuff I do is all like sheet metal and stuff, and it's hard when you put like 40 hours in a gas tank and you try to sell that to someone. It's just not going to happen. So, but if I can make you know, like 10 of them or something, stamp them 1 through 10, and do something like that, you know, just a limited run of like these gas tanks where I can knock them out a little bit quicker. Mm-hmm. But I can't make, you know, a giant number of them. I can't produce them by any means. You know, I can see something from that. But
so where did actually on that note, where did the whole like sheet metal come into play when you start working with that? Like, was it through the bodywork stuff you were doing back in the day, just patch welding and stuff?
Sort of. So I hate bodywork with like a vengeance. I'd rather like shape aluminum, because a lot of that just comes from, I just don't like the sand from bodywork, and just, you know, obviously I can't afford to have someone shape my own shit. So I bought a English wheel when I was going to school, and I started screwing around with that. I don't do any like super complicated shapes yet. If you look at my stuff, like it's mostly flat and hard lines and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's nothing serious, but it's mostly planishing hammers and English wheel work. I got a shrinker stretcher set up, but I don't really hammer stuff and make these crazy radius shape stuff. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the metal work, I'd rather, you know, file and sand down metal than deal with Bondo like any day of the week. I mean, it's weird saying that, because I know like everyone says shaping metal is harder. You know, it's really the same shit. If you know what's flat, it's flat, you know, but and you know how to work metal, it's all the same shit. But I would rather do that than spend, you know, the extra week, especially because I am not a very proficient body worker. I just hate it, you know. Try to avoid as much Bondo as I can. So what you do know how to do though, was it something you just picked up around people, or would you start like watching videos on the shit or some stuff, or what? Yeah, it's just watching YouTube videos, man. Like honestly, I just watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and I'm always had this like little bit of confidence in just trying something like that. Like I feel like if I can make it out of paper, I can make it out of metal. So I've kind of had that blind confidence about that. Yeah. But which sometimes it just doesn't work. Like
Yeah.
Sometimes you just run out of talent with it. Yeah, I just try to have fun with it, and I just try to shape it. It was really trial and error. I mean, I made things multiple times, really. I still do. Like if I'm making a gas tank, I'm making 3 of them.
Yeah.
So that's another reason I can't, sell stuff just yet, because it's just not there. I don't have it quite yet. But eventually, that's part of making that foundation, though.
That's part of that whole consistency thing, like staying with things every day. It's like you don't really pay attention to it, but next thing you know, you got 5 years under your belt doing something, and things become a lot more easier. You know what I mean? Yeah,
exactly. It's weird, though. I mean, like, especially when you start doing something, you'll go through this, you'll learn stuff very fast, and then for some reason, it feels very stagnant, and it feels that way. And Instagram's great for that, because especially like I started deleting old weld photos and shit, and old shit that I built, just because like you go back and look at it and you're like, what the fuck? Like
I do that with paint jobs.
Show that shit, you start to get better at it. It just seems like the process is so slow. But that's another reason I like, because like sometimes you'll be, trying to work something, trying to make it right. I like, learning other things. I took up sewing recently so I can upholster my seats. Yeah. But it's nice to get away from those things, and be that, just kind of learn everything,
Oh yeah, I agree. But, I mean, that, like I said, that's the attractive thing about like what you're doing with your bikes is, it's almost like, I need to build this. And they're like, oh, what about a seat? And you're like, all right, well, I guess I need to buy, you're not like, well, who does seats? You're like, well, how much is a sewing machine? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, luckily I was able to basically get a sewing machine for trade, basically. So I traded labor for a sewing machine, and that's a lot of times I'll trade fabrication. I'll build something for someone for something. Yeah. And it makes it a lot easier because I don't have to like rely on someone else, or, there's plenty of really good upholsterers. It's just also, like I said, man, I can't afford it, especially if it's for me. Yeah. I can't have a customer, yet, just because I still haven't gotten that foundation, it's not there just yet, but eventually, I'll have that. But
so what's your day-to-day grind now? Like, what are you doing for like normal work every day?
Work at this little small fab shop. I'm the fabricator there. I build a lot of spiral staircases, build cool. Railings. In Sarasota, there's a lot of old people that move out here, and like literally the average age of Sarasota is like 70.
Florida's a retirement state, so Sarasota. I've been there. I've been over there to Roaring Toys. Me and Robert are pretty good friends. I dated a chick once, and she lives in a town north of there her parents moved from here to a town called Rusk, I think it is.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's just like north of Sarasota on the Rusk or something like that. It's on the inside of like the Tampa Bay thing. So like not going over the bridge to Tampa, but if you stay inland, like you're going to go to Lakeland or something. Yeah. It's like right over there. Yeah. But man, like that area, I mean, don't the like Yankees play over there like preseason or some shit, or they do their spring break or whatever the fuck spring training?
Orioles do.
Orioles?
The Baltimore Orioles. Yeah.
Wasn't it the Yankees at one point though? I could have swore it was. Maybe not.
That would be before my time. I don't think so. I think it was always Orioles though.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but it's a pretty cool. Corey Souza's here too. Yeah. And we actually do have quite a bit of like, there's a lot of car shops here. I didn't realize it until more recently. There's a ton of custom builders here, like shit you see on TV.
You kind of got old money there though. You got like old people that are retired, and and it kind of creates a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an economist. There you go. Fucking Dos Equis, man. I'm on the old shit right now. I don't normally drink Dos Equis anymore. I've been on that Premier shit lately.
Oh, so, yeah? I got Corona Premier, man.
Yeah, my wife is going to be here later. She's bringing that up here for me. But, yeah, man, so you do so you actually get to fabricate every day. So that's actually a really good thing because you're constantly working with it. Dude, making shit like what you're saying, the spiral staircases, like you ever thought about making furniture and shit? Like to me, that's a rad little thing too, you know? Like I look at, when we built this little studio, like I started looking at furniture to put in here. I'm like, fuck, I can make that table. You know what I mean? Like, and there's something, when you make something, whether it's a bike or a fucking table or like anything, it's like, there's a really good feeling that you get from that shit. You know what I mean? Like just being able to say like, hell yeah, like this is made for me. Like I thought about where my arms need to be and how high, and, you know, do I like to sit all the way into the desk? So I need to be able to pull the chair under, you know what I mean? That kind of shit, you know?
Yeah. There is like there is something about it, you know, especially when you spend a lot of time on it, you know. Like I told my girlfriend that last one I did took about 9 months, and I was like, I pretty much know how pregnancy is. Like it's like the closest thing I have to a child right now. Yeah. So, yeah. But there is something about it. I've always, you know, I was a Lego kid and stuff. So like, I get that. Like, there's just something about, especially when you go off you stray away from the directions and kind of just do your own shit, you know, and just kind of figure it out. But yeah, eventually that would be cool. I'm not really certain just yet. You know, I kind of want to get away from the construction and stuff. I would like to make, you know, I'd more like to make like those, like the sculptures they have like in front of banks, you know, like crazy. Yeah. Like the weird abstract shit, just to say I did it. It's kind of one of those cool things where later on in life, someone will be like, well, you know, you're talking about what you've done. And you're like, oh, I made those bank sculptures, you know, the weird fucking wonky looking shit. I
noticed that like you recently posted some of the like trophies you made. That looks like it was all more machined out. Are you working with like or you just made that out of fabric or out of sheet metal?
Yeah, I machine a little bit. Those weren't machined at all, though. Oh. I cut those out on a bandsaw. Okay. So I cut those out on a bandsaw and then basically shaped them with a grinder. A lot of this stuff, I mean, it's real simple shit. Like I use a 4.5-inch grinder and a welder, and that's how I build most of that shit. But I actually took on, I know how to metal engrave a little bit. So
saw that, yeah.
Not very well, but
are you using like the actual, like the one that has this like a V shape or whatever, or like a diamond shape, and it's kind of digging it out, or what kind of engraver are you using?
When I actually started, I still have it. It's just a Dremel.
Okay.
I was using a Dremel with it's like a diamond tip or something. Mm-hmm. And that's a good way to get into it. It's just, you can't draw a line with that. It's not like an actual engraver. Yeah. But I actually have which I got it years ago because I wanted to, like, I remember when I was a kid watching Biker Build Off, you know, seeing like some of the Indian Larry bikes. I think Tay Herrera used to engrave them or something. Yeah. He would do all these crazy engravings on it. So I was like, well, that's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm going to make my way into this world, is start engraving bikes and stuff. And so I bought an actual, it's like it's an engraver with a piston in it. And it's got it's a pneumatic graver, but it's got a air graver, and it's a palm handle. You have a foot pedal, and that piston basically pushes and it hammers, kind of just real like tiny little hammers, just little, like, just chipping away at it. Yeah. But that's how you're supposed to correctly engrave. And I just never really got great at it. I still have it, and I still kind of screw around with it when I can. But I did a little bit of that on those, and it's a pretty fun skill if someone gets into it. But it's so fucking tough. Like, I mean, you can draw all you want. It's not the same thing, you know. It's kind of like when they say tattooing, it's just not the same. It's not, you know. Yeah. It just isn't. But
yeah, that's the same thing. Like airbrushing is much different than tattooing as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's all different, but that's what makes each one of those type of art forms pretty cool. Is that, you know, they're just different. So, but what's so is your Dyna done, or you got some more plans for it, or what are you thinking about?
I'm calling it done. There's some other stuff I want to make around it, just because eventually, like, I want to make parts and just different things that I can possibly sell in the future.
Yeah.
But right now, it's my daily ride, so I'm going to keep it that way. I have a motorcycle that I can actually ride around, and originally when I bought it, that's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I ended up chopping it apart, and
are you going to make that?
Tough.
So you had sketched out this really pretty dope fairing. Are you going to end up making that thing, or what's going on with that?
Eventually. Yeah. I'm going to shape that out of aluminum first, and that might go on the shovel head. Actually, I don't know yet. I haven't quite really put too much into that recently.
Yeah.
I really need to get on it. But eventually, I'd probably love to like produce those or something. But like I said, it's down the road. Probably fiberglass them, make a mold for it, take up another goddamn hobby, but or even make them out of carbon fiber, something about that. But
well, there's plenty of people that do shit like that. So I mean, if you come up with a design, I always felt like it, like when you make a part like that, it's not so much the part itself that's the most complicated, it's all the mounting that you got to get a little bit detailed with to make it make it sellable. Yeah. The big thing I want to do with that, which I don't really like the way the quarter fairings and stuff, they actually mount. I think they kind of look ugly inside. So I'd like to figure out how to do like an inside of the fairing, kind of close in the inside, even though it won't be functional whatsoever. It's like how they do like some of the bagger fairings, it's got the actual, they close it in, or the FXRT fairing. It's got that inner fairing to it. But, I want to do little stuff like that. And, like I said, I mean, that's so far down the road, it's hard to really plan for that. When I posted that, I was going to make that the next day and never really got to, or I was going to start making it, but, so kind of pushed it off. Are there any like bike builders that you've kind of looked up to, or like really kind of, more or less, I wouldn't say shaped yourself to, but like, like I have my handful of painters that I look at that I'm like, fuck that. Like every time they do something, it's like, it speaks to me. You know what I mean? Like, do you have guys like that for you as far as bike builders or people that's done fabrication in the past and stuff or whatnot?
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, there's a ton of guys out there. I mean, originally, when I was pretty young at the time when Biker Build Off came out. I mean, I guess what was that? They probably stopped that like 14 years ago or so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was still impressionable at the time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a lot of those guys, but that's not really where I got a lot of the style that I kind of like. Mm-hmm. It's more so, I mean, there's a ton. There's more to name. I really like the cut rate stuff. I mean, a lot of these guys more recently, I've liked, some of the guys who basically more off just make really, really clean, FXRs and shit.
Yeah.
I've just been really into that lately, but there's a lot of chopper builders too. I'm all over the place about it. Yeah. I was a really big Roland Sands fan. I still am, but
I liked Roland Sands in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So pretty much. When he first came on the scene, he was doing like some pretty rad shit with like the first, like he did that, I think, I want to say his name was Kenny Rogers, but I know it's not Kenny Rogers. He built a bike for an old racer.
Yeah, like Kenny Roberts.
That's right. I think
it's Kenny Roberts.
Yeah, that's right. And that bike was sick, dude. The color was sick. The bike was sick. It was just dope. You know what I mean? And at the time, I was really into sport bikes, so his style was like taking Harleys or V-twins and making them way more sporty than they were. And I thought that shit was sick. But now I don't know what. I mean, either he just doesn't have the design, or I don't know. I know he's still got the creativity, but I just don't know if he has the desire to do anything else. Like there's also that point where I think some people get to a point where like, well, fuck, man, like what else? Like what's next? Like, I guess I'll go make furniture. You know what I mean? Like you just get to a point where it's like, well, I'm kind of out of ideas. Like if I was going to be doing anything, I would be rehashing something I've already done before. You know what I mean? And like trying it again.
That's kind of true. I don't know if I can really name any of his more recent builds, but yeah, it does kind of seem that way. Maybe just haven't been aware of some of the stuff he's done. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, one of the more impressionable things was actually in one of those biker build-offs when he built that. Do you remember that bike he built against Jesse Rook? Which Jesse Rook, I was actually a really big fan of Jesse Rook.
Yeah.
Actually at the time, I think they're the young guys, and they just had a different style to it. They weren't trying to, do what everyone else was. But he built this twin cam. It was this crazy motorcycle. It looked kind of like it was very sport bike-ish. Like it was like a legitimate like race bike. Like it had a sport bike kind of frame, where it didn't have the down tubes that ran actually under it. The motor was actually, the frame was actually the rigid part of the motor. It was mostly just a backbone.
I want to say probably my most favorite one he ever did was I think it was called the No Regrets or something like that.
That's the bike, actually.
It is?
No Regrets.
It's like the
he named that after Johnny Chop.
Johnny,
I think.
Yeah, that bike was sick, and the color scheme was sick, and the bike, and it just had like the right amount of finishes. You know what I mean? Like from the billet to the paint, the flat, the gloss, the flake, and it just was. It was a spectacle to look at. It wasn't like it looked cohesive in every kind of way. You know what I mean? So I really like that.
Yeah.
Bike. But I like that. Like I said, that Kenny Roberts bike was a sick ass one too. Yeah, I don't even follow.
Was that the one? Because I think. See, I know Kenny Robert. He was a flat tracker, and I think he did a lot of Yamaha stuff. But there was a bike he did where he actually took it was a MotoGP V5. It was this crazy motor.
That was the Kenny Roberts bike. Because it was like a line. That was the Kenny Roberts bike. It was like that.
I think it was.
Yeah.
It was some weird motor configuration. But it was. I know that bike. That one actually is pretty fucking wild, and it's a shame no one really builds shit like that. You know what I mean? Like people, like you still see people building these crazy shit, and every once in a while you'll see some crazy power plant. I think that's where, a lot of these really cool builds start, is if you have just a ridiculous power plant. But you never really see anyone taking like a MotoGP motor and building. I think it was it was almost like a board track like setup. Yeah. Like it had really big rear and front wheels. It was strange for sure. It
was kind of long too. It had a really long tank on it. But you're right. It was like a board tracker because the tank kind of went to the seat. I'm trying to find a picture of it, but it was very like linear in that kind of sense. And no, I know what you mean. I really liked. I haven't really seen it kind of take too much, start happening, but I really like the whole like vibe of like rigid style looking choppers that have like a high performance vibe to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
I think the last Bling Cycles did one recently that I was really digging on. I think it was either late last year he came out with it or something. I can't remember, but I was really digging that shit.
Yeah, Bill Dodge builds some crazy bikes. He did a couple twin cams actually. Mm-hmm. You'd really like them. He did an orange. I think it was a twin. That one's a twin cam also. Yeah. But it's a orange bike. It's got like a sport bike front end, inverted front end. It's super fucking nice, like all of his bikes. But
it's like if you take Oliver from the Cut Rates style of bike, and then you throw a little bit of that like Rolling Sands kind of vibe into it, I'd fuck with that all day. That'd be like if this guy fucked and this guy fucked or a girl fucked or whatever, you know what I mean? Like I'd be all over that shit. I like that blending. I like blending styles. I think that's what's cool about doing bikes is like, I think that's what's cool about everybody and how each generation grows. Like I am taking styles that I find cool from paint. Like I'm so heavily influenced right now by the race helmet world. Like I love that style of paint job. But I don't want to do that paint job. I want to do it with like the panel thing or some older styles that I used to do. And that way it's kind of something different. It's like taking these things and making a new thing, you know? And that's what I think is fun and cool, is just growing that way.
Yeah, you're kind of crossbreeding it all. That's what a lot of builders that I really like, even if they don't have like the style that I tend to like kind of be drawn to. It's mostly guys who do like they're almost like genre-less bikes. You know, they don't fit to like a certain, you know, class or whatever. Yeah. You know, because it kind of gets a little old, especially, you know, you go to like a chopper show and like people are so period correct on it, you know, that they're, you know, it's these guys trying to like, it has to be like a rigid frame. They're super particular about it. You know, it has to, or when someone says, oh, I'm building a bobber or something, and it has to be like, they have to have like these constraints to it, and it really takes a lot of the creative freedom from it, you know what I mean? So I really have a lot of respect when I see like a builder who just builds some crazy shit. Like, it's not like you don't really put it in any like class or genre or anything like that. I think that's the coolest thing, you know. Even if it's something that's just not my style, I have a respect for it, especially if they put like work into it. You know, you could tell like when someone has like actual, like every part is like something's gone to it, or they take like even taking like something stock and just kind of modifying it. I think that's really cool, especially because, you know, the normal guy's not going to notice a lot of that shit, but the people who matter, you know, will.
See, I can appreciate the way, like, say, a certain chopper would look from the 60s, but I don't give a fuck if it's an original chopper from the 60s. I'm like, okay, that's probably not very rideable. But if you were to build some new style shit that fit that old style, I think that's cool. You know, like, instead, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to talk, you know, too much shit about it, but like that stuff is boring to me. Like, oh, it's a fucking original this or that. Like, I wouldn't give two fucks if it's an S&S motor, you know, S&S knucklehead or a real knucklehead. I don't give a shit. I would probably rather have the S&S knucklehead, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And it probably works better. Yeah. It functions better, you know?
You know, just build a cool bike, and like that's what choppers are supposed to be about, you know. But, and that's, I guess, if I ever had any kind of a issue with the whole like vintage chopper movement as it came back forth, was it like, what are you doing now to make you a part of the actual lineage of choppers? You're literally just reliving somebody else's past. What are you doing to make the choppers of the 19 or the 20 aughts or whatever the fuck it's called? You know what I mean? Like, instead you're like trying to look like you're from the 70s, you know? Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, it's like anti-everything chopper, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the guy didn't chop that bike up so he would try to retain it exactly how it is, or try to retain that style. You know, he was against everything they're trying to do, which, like I said, a lot of those guys are my friends, so I don't really want to talk shit. I really like some of this stuff. You know, I can respect a lot of this stuff, but it's just kind of funny, especially the chopper scene's just weird because they really like, they almost love like poor craftsmanship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of that like rat rodish scene, you know? Like where it's, you know, like a lot of times where it's like really bad fabrication and no paint, and it's like, well, you can't paint or weld, so like, what the fuck? Like, I get, you know, but like a lot of those guys will flock to it because it has like a fucking iron head, and it's like, the iron head was the biggest piece of shit in like the planet. Like, honestly, it's not a very functional motorcycle. But back to like the performance choppers, I'm actually a big proponent of swing arm choppers. I think I'm probably the only goddamn person in the world that would say something like that, you know, but I fucking love swing arm choppers. And I think that's probably going to be one of the next cool things, especially when you see a lot of people chopping their Dynas and FXRs and stretching them, deraking them.
That shit looks cool, man. I dig it. I'm so like, my FXR, I have a 94 down there that I want to build, and I don't know which way to go, because part of me wants to build like a D-rake, you know, Al Emerson style, you know, bike. But then the other part of me is like, but I still want just a normal FXR. So I'm kind of like, I need two, you know?
Well, it's tough. Like, it's tough when you cut apart a frame. Like, it's one of the weirder things, especially when it's a perfectly good motorcycle. Yeah. You know, like, you almost kind of felt like you did something wrong, but that's what those chopper guys want. You know, that's what they wanted. You know, that's what they represented. They cut apart brand new motorcycles at the time. When you see those, you know, those old shovel heads, man, that bike was probably a year old when they cut it up. But yeah, I can understand that, especially with the FXRs and stuff. But like, I'd say chop it, man, especially if you know how to get that trail and rake right. That's all that really matters.
That part, you know, that would not be handled by me. I'd either have my buddy FXR Mike do it, or
I saw he's done a couple.
Yeah, I'd have him do it in general, just because, you know, he's a close friend of mine, and I'd rather put money in my friend's pocket than, you know, somebody I don't know. But I guess I don't really have patience, man. So like. And it sucks because it's like, it's kind of a double-edged sword or whatnot, because I expect all my customers to have quite a bit of patience for me to do what I do. But if I was to hit up somebody to do something like that for me, I don't know if I would have the same amount of patience as that most people have for my work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of why I've always done my own shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's a big part of it, especially, I mean, because, I mean, you never know, you know, you don't know but I mean, at the same time, but yeah, sometimes it's best to just keep it stock. But if you ask me, I'd say chop it, man. You know, especially if you got a buddy that can do it, you know.
So okay, let me tell you my thought. So I have quite a bit of parts to throw at this bike, and dial it up, make it pretty cool. Throw a quick paint job on there, just clean it up, make it a ripper, and you know, I got rims for it, all kinds of shit. So I could probably dial it in, make it look good, and have it turnkey ready for somebody for like a $10,000, maybe $11,000 bike. And then I could, because the one I want to chop is I want an 82 shovel, because that's my birth year. So I'd rather do an 82 shovel chopper or FXR, and then derake it, swing arms, everything, but like do the motor like dialed, like it's fucking, I'm not going to race it, but I want it to fucking run. You know what I mean? And and kind of go that route with that bike, and then take the rest of the money and buy like a full fairing one to rebuild and shit. But at the same time, man, like I'm starting to kind of get a little bit of this new Softail fever. Like I want so many fucking bikes, man. It's so ridiculous. But everybody keeps talking. Like, I didn't really care for the new Lowrider S when it came out, but now that some people I know are starting to buy them, I kind of wouldn't mind having one. But I kind of don't care, but I kind of do care. You know, I'm a little all over the place with that.
Yeah. No, dude, I am 100% about the new Softails. Yeah. I don't care what anyone has to say about it. I just think functionality wise, from everything you can see. I mean, Yamaha did it in the 80s, you know, works better. Like, everyone wants to talk about their performance dynos. The dyno is one of the big, I'll say that. Like, I built a dyno, and I think the frames is one of the biggest pieces of shit on the planet. Like, it's just flawed. Like, it's a flawed frame. It's not the correct, you know, evolution on the FXR. It just isn't. Like, it's a motor hammock. It's just not correct. You know, if you look at it, like, I remember taking apart my dyno. I was like, what the fuck? Like, because, you know, I wanted a twin cam at the time. I didn't really know anything about them. I was still kind of young. I bought that dyno, and I was like, like, I remember my FXR, the axle went through the frame. That seems like a better design, you know? Yeah. But you see the Softails, especially, you know, with them being solid mounted. I think they're solid mounted. I could be wrong on that. Maybe I don't know.
I haven't taken a swing arm off those bikes yet to know.
Yeah, but you can tell it's just it's a better design. Like, it just is. And they look cool. I think they look more like what a motorcycle should look like. And I think that's important to try to keep that, like, quintessential motorcycle lines. Yeah. Which is typically looks like a rigid, you know. That's why they made the original Softail. Yeah. But honestly, I think Harley should have came out with that Softail instead of the Dyna and the other Softail, you know, in the 90s. Like, that should have been the replacement for the FXR. It's sad it's not, you know, because we could have had that frame with a twin cam, you know.
Yeah, I wonder if they're pretty much pushing back all the new models that are supposed to be coming out, like the Bronx and the fucking Pan America. I guess because of this shit, this pandemic.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on. I know, and their CEO like stepped out. A lot of people are posting like conspiracies and shit. Like, Harley C. I think he got fired. But,
that's what sucks about it is like I know a lot of people buying new bikes right now, you know, but I don't know. Like I don't know business like on that kind of business well enough to understand like what's a loss and what's a gain. I look at it like when 9 people I know in my close group of friends, there's 6 of them went and bought new Softails. Like, how many people in their group of friends can say that all those dudes went and bought new Softails and the other ones went and bought new baggers? So it's just like, people are buying these bikes. They're buying like, I mean, yeah, you can get good deals on Dynas right now, no doubt. But like, fuck, man, these M8 motors are fucking nasty, man. They run, they're solid. You know, they had a couple kinks in the 17 model, but, you know, they worked out all those issues and they fucking go now. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of the shitty part because I'm kind of in the used bike boat, you know, so we could have had all these years to have this Softail model, you know, instead we had a Dyna, you know, which the Dyna is cool. It looks like a 4-speed, you know, shovelhead, you know, kind of. I mean, it looks kind of cool.
It does kind of like, have those FX lines, like those old FXE lines and shit.
Yeah, it's funny how they, you know, people try to bring it off like it's this performance motorcycle, and it's really not. Like it just
represents. To me, I think what it boils down to is it's an affordable bike, like you were just saying. Like there's so many used Dynas out there.
Yeah,
and you can ride them aggressively and have fun, but you know, most of the people that ride these bikes, they're not pushing them hard enough to even get the wobble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless they just have a shitty like motor mounts and wheel bearings, and then it'll wobble all over the place. But I mean, it's a look, man. Like the bikes look cool. Like some dudes are buying Dynas to rip them around corners. Some of them are trying to wheelie them, and some people just like they dig that whole vibe of like performance looking bikes. I mean, the whole thing is an oxymoron, right? Compared to like metric bikes, but you know, like I don't give a shit how I've owned a Hayabusa before. Like I get it. They're fast as fuck. They corner, but they do everything better. Awesome. Cool. I don't feel as cool riding it as I do my Harley, so fuck off. You know what I
mean? Yeah. That's the funny part about Florida. Well, I grew up, I ended up I had a sport bike for like 5 years. Actually, I lived on a sport bike for 5 years. So like, I get that, but yeah, you do kind of like it. Cause I rode my brother's got a sport bike still. He's got a CBR 1000, and it almost feels like you're like put into some like sort of doggy style like position. It feels weird, especially when you go from sitting up like just upright with your hands, you know, mildly, and then you're leaning over. You're just like, this is just strange. Like it feels like I'm way too aggressive for what I'm doing. Like,
advertising some booty.
Just right on the road, you know.
No, there's some cool looking bikes, but like, you know, I even look at like the sport bikes that I built back in the day that were in magazines and shit like that. And I'm proud of what I did for the time, but I would never do it again. Like if I had to build another sport bike, I would probably take a much different approach. But it just, to me, it's all about like, I don't know, like the whole scene just kind of like lost its luster, you know. At the time, you know, nobody was doing cool shit on Dynas back then. Otherwise, I would have been on sport bikes. I think a lot of younger guys, like early 20s guys, are lucky that you know, they're getting to start on Dynas where they're not getting a bike that weighs 500 pounds and can go 200 miles an hour. You know, because if you can do it, you'll do it. Especially if you drink, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't believe they actually make sport bikes. Like they're just fucking ridiculous. But here in Florida, though, that scene's still very alive. It's pretty much in Florida, you're either like a Power Ranger or a pirate here. Like you're an old guy in leather and chaps on a Harley, or you're you're dressed in leathers on a fucking crotch rocket. Sometimes like, cause a lot of my friends are still into sport bikes. Sometimes you just gotta be like, grow up, Peter Pan, man. Like, come on, like get a fucking Harley, man. But it's hard to sell them on that. Cause like, all they see are these old guys dressed up in leathers and,
Yeah.
But that's just Florida. We're kind of behind it on that. And, a lot of it's because our terrain's a little differently. So it's just not cool. We have highways, so it's cool to get on a highway on a sport bike, and you can make it to, you could make it to Miami in a couple hours if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Totally breaking the law, but
yeah, it's a different vibe. But I also think it's an evolution too, because people that ride bikes, when I used to ride sport bikes, there were some like 45, 55-year-old dudes still showing up in full leathers, like, hey, y'all ready to ride? You know what I mean? Like, that was still into that. Some people just stick with it, man. But like, I did all I felt like I could do on a sport bike safely, and I was kind of like bored with it. There was nothing else to do. I did wheelies for a while. I was never a stunt rider, but I had my phase where I was fucking, trying to wheelie every time I could, and it was cool, and I felt accomplished. But then I drag raced for a little bit, and then I lost interest in that because I couldn't afford to keep up with everybody else. And then the only thing I could ever really do to them that I had a little bit of an edge was kind of customize them, because I could do a lot of it myself, kind of like you do. And that's where, and then that turned into a business, which then kind of evolved into Harleys, because that's where the money's at in customization. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Actually, especially where I am, like that's Roaring Toys. Like they were massive building custom sport bikes. And actually that's probably really what kind of edged me towards it. Yeah. Seeing some of the sport bikes, I'm not embarrassed to say that. I don't care.
Oh, dude, they've got a couple that I loved. One of my favorite sport bike builders was actually from there. I don't know if he's from that part of Florida, but it was Nick Anglingata or something like that. He used to build I can't remember what his shop name was, but he built some of the sickest bikes back in the early 2000s.
He did some Ducatis. Am I thinking of the right guy?
He's in the Ducatis now, but back in the day, he used to build some fucking killers. Some really badass bikes. Yeah. Really badass sport bikes back in the day. And he was out of Florida somewhere. I don't know if he was in Miami. I don't think he was that close to Sarasota. Maybe Tampa. I don't know. Maybe Orlando. Yeah. Who fucking knows? I don't know. You have long ass state. So.
Yeah, man. No one really realizes how fucking large Florida is. It's giant, actually. It takes a while just to get out of here. Which is kind of a shame because, like a lot of my buddies, I guess you actually understand that more so. Being the biggest state in the country, but especially when people are talking about going from state to state, and all this, it's like, dude, it takes like 6 hours to get out of Florida from where I am. If that, it probably takes more than that. Actually, shit. It's probably, I don't know how far I would be. It's a long ride just to get out of Florida.
Yeah. Well, I've said it before on the podcast, but from Dallas to LA, it's just under halfway is El Paso.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I guess El Paso's they're on the tip, the very far west tip of Texas, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're there. And I don't know. I've done that. I haven't really been east very much as far as like northeast where all the really small states are. So I don't know what it's like to kind of like zip through states where it's like, we're going to go, we're in New York. Let's go ride to Boston today. You know what I mean? Let's go 5 states over, 3 states over, some shit.
Yeah. Let's go a state over for lunch. You know?
Exactly. In Dallas, if you go north 100 miles, you're in Oklahoma. You go east about 150, 170, you're in Louisiana. You go west, it's like 600 something miles, and you're in. If you go to El Paso, then you're there. But you can get to New Mexico. It's just like about 350 miles, 360. So
yeah,
it's not too bad.
Yeah, see. Yeah, but the cool thing about that, like, I can see like Texas being pretty central to everything, because like me going to LA, like that's absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a couple days.
That's one of the biggest reasons why I've decided, I've been staying here and not like going to Cali or Phoenix, because it's just easy to go wherever. And if the industry changes and, all of a sudden somebody in Ohio comes up with the next trend and I dig it, then, what if I got to kind of cater to the Ohio market? You know what I mean? I'm in a better spot here to do that. So, and also shipping is a thing that's awesome. Since a lot of our work comes through the mail, it's easier to ship to Texas than it is to ship all the way across the country. So
yeah, that's a major plus. You guys have a state tax there? Or?
Nope.
Yeah, same here in Florida, man. That's a big selling point. Like, imagine living in California, man.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. I've had this conversation a million times, but California is just, it's so alluring. It's just such a fucking fascinating place where it feels like it's everything that any of us custom guys are into. It's all like birthed. I'm making up words. Yeah. It's all from there. You know what I mean? So when you're there, you just feel like you're plugging into the mainframe. You know what I mean? And you just want to. It's just a really like you can absorb a lot of energy while you're there. But when when I'm there too long, though, I feel. I don't know. Like I don't like being there too long though, because it gets a little bit fake, superficial kind of feeling. Yeah. It's not so much our industry; it's more just the rest of the part of California. Yeah, I can imagine. I've never been that far, but yeah, man, it is kind of. I totally agree with you that, especially because I'm a big hot rodder. So especially just the fact that it's really the birthplace. There's a lot of heritage there. Yeah, and it's a shame, of a lot of the laws going on there. I've heard like a lot of people say they don't really enforce it. Like I know the exhaust and stuff. It's like that's the birthing place of hot rodding, man. Like how are you gonna restrict a lot of this shit? That's sacrilegious. If it was up to to most Californians, we would all be driving Teslas, and gasoline cars would be a thing of the past. It's just like you know what I mean. It's just different people that don't really dig what guys like us do. Because if you think about it, if you're not into fixing up cars or bikes, we're probably the most annoying thing to normal people going down the road, and that's how it's always supposed to be.
It's a damn shame, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So what do you got? You got anything planned for like next year or anything? Or fuck, it's still this year, right? It feels like the year's over because it's like gone to shit so far. But how are things there right now? Like how is it affecting you and your life much? Like all this shit going on or what?
Dude, Florida's kind of like the Wild West here right now, man. Yeah. Like we just got closed down today, actually. Today was supposed to be like a stay-at-home order. Like you're supposed to be at home. On my drive to work, like, because you're only supposed to be essential business. Like every fucking person's essential. The only people that aren't, like, traffic's no different. Like it's still, so I don't really know. Obviously it's affecting us. Like our beaches are closed. It's really weird. Like it's strange. And I figured I'd like it just because I can stay in the garage and build stuff. But it's kind of it's weird because it feels like you're sacrificing so much freedom for that safety for it. But it's the dust just got to clear.
I feel the same way, but it's hard to have it. Being very uneducated on the situation and not being able to really trust all our sources of news right now, it's really hard to have it's hard to take it. I wouldn't say it's hard to take it seriously. You know what I mean? For me, at least, it's hard to take it serious because, all we see is people, making memes about shit and the tiger dude and fucking, what else? Like, it's just a fucking weird thing, man. It's like you would think we're all stuck in some quarantine right now, and people are just making memes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it feels
it's
like
one of those
a joke.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of the fucked up part because I think we've built a society that's pretty much just always calling wolf,
Yeah.
like, where when something bad's going to happen, like it might actually affect us because everyone thinks it's like half the country think it's 5G towers. The other half thinks it's fake. And, it's hard to really figure out. I know, like, from what I've heard, it's pretty serious and we're trying to take it seriously, but I don't know, man. I'm ready for it to go back to normal. It's weird, especially, I think a lot of the guys on motorcycles kind of get that because, in life, you're always trying to, you've got your safety and freedom, and you're always really kind of sacrificing a little bit of, safety for freedom. And it's weird when you don't have those options anymore. I mean, we could still ride motorcycles and stuff, but you like start losing those options, you start losing a little bit of freedom.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I hope shit gets better. I know it's pretty much running rampant in New York pretty bad here. Yeah. But Florida, it seems like I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't get bad here because it doesn't seem like we're really doing much about it. Like, it's the same shit going on. No one's eating at restaurants and no one's going to the beaches apparently. And that's it.
Yeah. But meanwhile, the local Walmart is fucking packed. Yeah, dude, I had to go to Walmart today to pick up some stuff, man. And it was, like I don't, like I said, I'm a dumbass, so I don't really know for sure why, but I'm there, and you know how Walmart usually has 2 doors to get in, like 2 entries? They made it to where everybody's going through 1 entry now. I'm like, so you're like literally funneling them in now and funneling them out. So everybody's, I don't know, like I just don't get it. And then it's like everywhere else you go, it's like a X amount of people limit to get in. Like you got to wait. Okay, 2 more people can go in because 2 people came out. Not Walmart. That place can be packed to the fucking brim. You can hang out in that bitch if you want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they made like a maze outside of our Walmart. That's one of the weirder things they did, which I guess I understand because it takes people longer to get through that. So it spreads people out. But, dude, I don't fucking know, man. I know, like, we were actually on the cusp before this, like, shit really, like, dropped because Bike Week was basically, like, was the last week for like people to actually like hang out.
Yeah.
And I heard a couple people, apparently they got really sick after Bike Week, which is a little spooky. I don't know if they tested positive.
Well, they're saying that right now because Louisiana or New Orleans is getting hit pretty hard. And a lot of that they're associating to Mardi Gras because of so many travelers coming into it. I mean, Mardi Gras is definitely bigger than Bike Week. So
Yeah, man. It's definitely weird, especially when you see a lot of these famous people catching it. Like I said, I'm taking it pretty seriously, but especially what you're saying in Louisiana, I think Sean Payton, the head coach for the Saints, caught it or something. After I saw that, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, what the fuck are the chances of that shit?
Yeah.
But I remember we were actually at Bike Week, and it was kind of awkward because we were kind of like getting more aware of it, and you didn't know if like people wanted to shake hands or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I was still like, if someone put their hand out, I'd shake it, but it was weird. Like you didn't know, like it was kind of, there's an awkwardness to it because some people were on it and some people, I don't think they gave a shit. But they shut it down. They shut that down like the second weekend got shut down, and we left like Thursday or something. So we actually made it back before all that stuff got shut down. I remember seeing Mama Tried got shut down, and I was like, oh fuck. Like,
yeah, Mama Tried was like right afterwards, and there were people that were already there for them. Yeah, it got shut down the last day they're filling up the building. So, but it looked like they had a pretty good party though. I don't know if you saw some of the boonie races they're doing. They had some guy put a mini bike in a porta potty. It like ended up on like Barstool Sports and shit. Like there was a porta potty just like going down like in Milwaukee, riding through the streets. Cause I think they just like, they're racing through the streets and shit. Yeah.
That's crazy. But I think that I'm already like, man, like I said, I'm getting fucking cabin fever about it. I'm ready for it. Cause especially I didn't go to so many events. I missed a lot of events trying to, make some stuff. And now it's like it's shut down. It's like, what the fuck, man?
I've said this before, but I'm really hoping that this kind of gets people to start taking, like, instead of like postponing things every year and every time, just to start taking a little bit more chances with doing the things they want to do in life, like going to Sturgis or doing this or doing that. Just do it, because like this is for all those people that made it to be this year, it's like, fuck, man. Like, what if this doesn't change and we're stuck like this? You know what I mean?
For sure, man. Like, I think ultimately it's going to have some positive effects to it. Yeah. I think people are going to start going out and doing some of those things. And I think we're probably going to bounce back pretty quick once it actually opens up. Because people are.
That's why we haven't officially like, as of now, like, we're still planning on going through with our little campout thing. But at the same time, like, even though people are seeing a lot of it online, like, before this took place, we were only expecting about 150 people to show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're talking about over the course of like 40 acres.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, as far as that goes, I don't see why there would be a problem with that. I mean, if it's so hard, man, it's so hard to figure it out because it's so weird. A lot of people are like calling for like shit that happened in China. I don't know if you saw the videos, like they're super authoritative and they're just freaking going door to door, doing temperature tests on people and, grabbing people that are warm. It's crazy. I just don't think that's okay to live in a world like that. You know what I mean? But I think once this all like ends, like people are going to start, I think it's going to have a positive change on people.
Oh, for sure.
I think ultimately, I know it sounds bad saying that right now. I mean, because actual people are dying from it, but I think it'll have a good outcome on the way people react. And you can see people acting a little differently here and there, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, like I said, that's why we've been kind of hesitant to really do too much talking on social media about it, because I don't need a whole bunch of people trying to call us out saying, oh, you're going to spread the virus more, like, we're just going to wait till the week of. And if it's on the downward spin, we're just going to go ahead with it. And whoever decides to show up, cool. If you don't, like I told everybody, it's like, look, if you don't come, that's fine. I'm going to be there and my wife will be there and maybe another person. I'm going to have a good time. Me and her camped last weekend, just me and her, had a good time. You know what I mean? So, but at the same time, like, I don't want people to do things that they don't feel, comfortable doing. And, and I know it's probably, like, if you're from, like, New York or something, maybe it's probably a best idea you don't come, like, where it's a hotbed for it right now, But, like, if you feel like you feel like shit, maybe you should stay home. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, I get it, Well, if we end up going through with it, even like on the back end of this pandemic shit, we'll probably set it up so there's a lot of things at the campsite to make it to where, like, we all have our own. We'll set it up. We'll buy a bunch of like foam coolers. That way, everybody can have their own little cooler set up and have their own stuff, so that nobody's reaching into the same coolers to get beers and you know what I mean? Shit like that to keep it kind of separate, but. It ain't like we're all sleeping together either, so, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, I mean, as far as camping goes, I mean, you're so far separated from people. Like, it really, I don't know. But, yeah, no, I was really considering going to that, but I'm just financially, I just can't take off that many days of work because it'd take a while to get there.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I got my buddy. He's actually coming up here today. He's from Tampa and he drives trucks and they do a big ride, or he's hosting a ride from Tampa there. But yeah, they do it in like a day, like a day and a half or something like that. Like you can get from Tampa to probably, I mean, you could make it in a day, to be honest with you. It's not that bad. But from Tampa, it's about 1,000 miles. So I believe.
Yeah. That's really not that bad. But
on your bike, it might be a bitch though.
Huh?
On one of your bikes, it might be a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Well, the Dyna's it's reasonable to do it. I'm going to set up some saddlebags for it eventually. Yeah. I want to build some cool setup for it so I can actually make it a usable touring bike. Yeah. that's kind of the reason I built it though. Like I wanna do some cross country trips, you know.
Yeah.
And like I was talking to you in the beginning of this podcast, that first podcast I listened to when Joe Kidd was like, "Hey, listen to this podcast." Just hearing how enthusiastic he was about, riding across the country. I mean, you could tell in that guy's voice, he's 150% about it.
Yeah.
You know, it just, he kind of makes you want to, do those things. I've always wanted to do it, but like, it's coming. That's why I wanted to build the twin cam, and I like it when people are building, more late model bikes. It's hard, especially in Florida. We have a little bit of a chopper scene, but they won't even look at they won't look at anything older or newer than an Evo, or newer than a shovel head.
Yeah, and then when you walk up to them and they're on their iPhone 11 Pro Maxes, just shake your head and go, thought you're about that old shit. You need to get you an old rotary phone, bro.
Yeah, where's your period correct phone, motherfucker? They didn't have cell phones back then, man. You need to go find a landline, buddy.
Yeah. Carry a payphone around on a trailer on your bike. Yeah, it's a mess, man. Those I just wish, the fun thing is like we all kind of like bag on each other, like different types of bikes, different scenes. And it's fun. It's all in good heart, but I don't know. It just gets I don't know. It gets a little tiring. Because I guess people start making memes and shit about everything, and it's all, sometimes they're funny as fuck, but sometimes it's like, dude, just calm down. Now the big wheel bagger. So there's like, I've been seeing this just be so funny. It's like the big wheel bagger crowd, the last like stragglers of shops that are really kind of trying to hold on to that genre of bikes, basically. They're starting to kind of get a little bit more vocal about talking shit about the performance bagger scene and come up. And it's like,
oh, I know.
What is your argument against us? Like, oh, you fucking better riding, handling motherfucking bikes that start right up and you don't have to air up. And you know what I mean? Like, what is your argument? Like, it's so funny, like listening to someone trying to like tee up a good point about why performance baggers suck. It's so
I know.
Funny.
I'm sorry I made a well-handling motorcycle. I'm sorry it functions.
Sorry I don't have to trailer it everywhere because it falls apart, Yeah.
Which that's saying, like, I know a couple guys, like, I've got a lot of respect for someone who will hop on either a shovel head or like there's a couple guys that'll hop on a big wheel bagger and ride it across the country. I mean, it's really not my style of motorcycle. As far as I'm concerned, like, I'll always have a motorcycle that I will at least have like the possibility of pulling a wheelie on. Yeah. It just has to have that potential. And I don't want anything less than that, even though like I can't bring myself to wheelie either, the Dyna just because I don't want to fucking eat shit. Yeah. But that's a good reason not to. It just has to have that potential. That's the baseline for it. It has to, like, I'm not lowering the bar, But
I actually need to do a podcast with Souza because I know him pretty well. Or I wouldn't say pretty well, but me and him know each other. We've hung out a couple times, and I know he's not a huge proponent for the performance baggers. He did my buddy Jason's podcast up there in Lakeland. And,
I know. I listened to it.
And he was just talking shit, and I was like, man, because I know that he's been wanting to do our podcast too, but I don't know. The thing is that like I got to be able to talk the right amount of shit to where that I win that performance bagger conversation with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. No, you got to find some slick talking like performance like a performance bagger guy or something. Because I know he talks a lot of shit. Like he shows up to pretty much every bike night around here, and every time I pull in, he has to make some Dyna joke or something, or some shit like that. Like, where's your tall socks, buddy? Or some shit like that. So. Well, he's funny though. I mean, he's clearly he's from the Northeast. I mean, they talk a lot of shit, and I think it's fun as hell, man. I love talking shit with those guys.
I don't know if you met Will. He goes by Race Glide. He was at the Ace Cafe thing too that time, and he's from up north, actually Boston and shit, or in that area, and same exact kind of. those two going at it, talking about performance baggers and like whatever would be a fun. I would host that podcast and not even say anything and let those dudes just go at it. What's better?
That's what you should do. That's 100% what you should do, is just start doing that. Actually, that's a great idea. Just podcast where you find like two rival guys and just have them argue the whole podcast, just talking shit the whole time.
Yeah.
Like I think people would love that shit.
They would, and that's the problem, is that people like stupid shit like that.
Yeah, but that's cool as hell though. Like it's just, I mean,
it would be funny as long as it's all in good heart, because like, you know, you don't want the people that are going to take sides. They're going to become way more tribalistic about their opinions and get way more, I wouldn't say violent, but they'll be a lot more quick to jump on a Facebook forum and talk some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but wouldn't that make it even funnier?
For the anarchists that don't want to see the industry go anywhere, it'd be fun as hell. But you know, we have to try to. We got to try to keep people. You got to understand, like when there's too much drama, it pushes away potential customers and motorcycle enthusiasts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I guess I'm not like. Yeah, I'm not saying like don't take like two guys who actually have like a real beef. Like It's probably not a good idea to bring in the Canadian guy and Jeff Holt or something like that.
For sure.
I mean, it would be a great podcast, but I don't think in the long run it would be like a great idea. But as far as Corey goes, I think it's all good fun. Yeah. Or if not, like I'm still having fun with it. I don't care.
Like I said, he's a good dude.
There's another guy running around here. There's only like one other guy that's got like the stereotypical Dyna, and he's got a really kick-ass Dyna. It's like a 2016 Dyna, and I'm pretty certain Corey I think him and Corey are pretty tight. But it's like your stereotypical Dyna build with a quarter fairing. It's got a really slick Dave Perowitz paint job on it with flames. Mm-hmm. But he hangs out with him a lot, but he always has like he's got like that Dyna attire, like he's got like the tall socks, Dixon flannel and shit. But it's funny because Corey Souza, he knows I'll talk shit about Dynas too.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, we both have Dynas. Like, I don't want to talk shit to this guy. But no, dude, that'd be a great idea, though. I'd say fucking bring Corey on. Just bring Corey on and bring that other guy and just explain it to him. I think they'd have fun with it. I think it's all on good, it's in good,
Yeah.
Like they don't have a real beef about it.
Oh yeah, nobody
shit,
does.
Man.
I mean, I don't think anybody does. I've seen some, like I said, I've seen people start to more or less, like I said, some of the big wheel guys, I've been seeing more of them like start making posts that are kind of like they thought about it, like a good long shit, and they really thought about. They might have typed it out in notes or something first, and then posted it to Instagram. And to me, it worries me. Or it doesn't worry me at all. But I just, like as someone who has done the big wheel thing and is a huge fan of the performance motorcycle movement, I want to get on there and like engage with these people, and I'm like, I just can't do it. I just can't get involved.
You almost kind of want to like convert them almost.
Yeah,
it's like, dude,
I want, there are definitely people that made it from that transferred over and evolved from the billet chopper era into the big wheel bagger area. And now it has to happen again. And it's like if you're a shop that builds bikes, you have to be able to build what's trendy, or you have to build such a badass name like Jesse James that you get to build your bike for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But even with Jesse though, you see him adapting. Yeah. He's still got that style. But
Jesse talks all kind of shit about baggers, and he has a performance bagger now. So
but that's what I'm talking about though. Like he does adapt to it. There's a fine line between like selling your soul, selling out and like adapting. Like, it's like the same thing we're talking about with the choppers. Like, yeah, you can build that same chopper. You can build that same, that cool, really cool chopper, Springer front end, that teeny tiny peanut tank. like a solo seat. You can build that chopper all day, but you're not really adapting, and it's still cool. That's really what I like. Those are those guys that are putting like a ton of fabrication, especially when you see like some of the Born Free bikes.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of guys like taking that fabrication. Like if you see people taking all that shit that they're doing to that and adapting and building something new, I really, like I was saying before, man, like when you see a builder that's just got his, like it's a genre-less bike, they're basically laying the road for like future motorcycles. Those motorcycles are going to be what people are into later on, and I like the idea of, especially I've always liked this idea of like parallel universes and stuff. I know I'm kind of going off, but this will kind of interconnect here. But like if you had like just different guys designing the bikes, you'd have all these like infinite, like different genres of motorcycles. And there's just all this, like there's so many designs of just these motorcycles that they, just little tweaks. What if something different happened? What if Harley produced that? You remember that 4-cylinder?
Yeah.
That the AMF was prototyping. It was liquid cooled. What if they fucking did that shit? Like, how different would everything be? Like, what would we be adapting to?
Yeah.
But I like that idea of like some of these builders are unlocking of what could have been, you know what I mean? Like what motorcycles could have been. So it's hard when you see people who are stuck on the same thing and they're building the same shit, and they're not adapting to it. It's so important to adapt, but not sell yourself out. There's a difference, Yeah.
I mean,
when you
kind of along what you're saying, like if you got your start building billet choppers, or, whatever the case may be, once you kind of go into a new genre of bikes or a new style of bikes, applying some of that shit how to do to the new style, or trying to find a way to fit what you know how to do into a new trend is how you raise the bar. Like my buddy, I don't know if you follow Insta Having Kyle, but he's building a bagger right now that fucking, man, like it sucks because it doesn't suck at all. The dude's building a fucking rad bike, and I'm super stoked to see it. And I think it's going to be one of those kind of baggers that really help put the performance baggers on another level of on the map. You know what I mean? It's really coming together really nicely. So
yeah. And that's the thing, is you can put that quality, and that's one of the things I like going to shows where there's a lot of big wheel baggers, because they're putting a lot of money into it. You might see something where there's just little ideas that you can pick off of it, but it's good seeing some of those guys, especially. Can you imagine if the amount of money was in the billet chopper era was in like the performance motorcycles that people are building now? I mean, it would be absurd. Yeah. Like, some of the bikes those guys were building back then. I mean,
the point is basically like, if some of these shops that do have those kind of customers and those builder and those if they can usher them in, then hopefully those customers will stick around. You're going to stick around. You know what I mean? Like hating on different things because it's new or whatever doesn't always help. And I'm a hypocrite for saying that, because I do it too. But realistically, it is about trying to just continue to try to put your touch on new things, as long as it's not Indian. So I don't fuck with Indians. They should go out of business.
But yeah, man, it's just, it's one of those things. So I know that. So did Insta Having Kyle? Did he build big wheel baggers or something? Or because I started following him because I think you had him on your podcast or something.
He was on our Performance Bagger podcast where we had Curtis Hoffman, Daniel from Proper Baggers. I don't know the dude's first name, Monty Roach, I guess, the pinstriper guy. And then Kyle was on. Kyle's supposed to come on here, do his own podcast soon. But yeah, he's been around the mini truck customizing scene and this, that, and the other, and he's done a lot of shit over the time. So I think he's got a nice touch that he's bringing to it, and he works with the guy that does the custom paint, so he's kind of around it all day, and I think he does a little bit of himself. So. I'm, like I said, I'm excited. I'm excited for his, and I was going to do mine over, because I never really built my bike. I was getting sponsorships with some parts. I threw those parts on. I threw a paint job on, and then I've just been putting miles on that bike. But
is that the Red Glide?
Yeah, my current bike. I actually want to do it like I did my gold FXR, which is technically the last bike I really went into and did everything to, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
But now that he's coming out with this, like, I'm just going to put mine on hold for about 6 months and let him have, see what I need to see where the bar's at, you know what I mean? So that I can know where I need to try to come at. Cause that's what's fun about this too, man. Like I've been really digging this performance bagger shit for the last couple of years. And now that it's been a lot of cool bikes coming out, but now with more and more guys getting in and digging in and making cool shit, I'm excited to see where it's going to go. So
yeah, no, it's definitely cool when you see some of the big wheel baggers guys getting into it, because they know how to do a lot of shit that a lot of guys that aren't in the scene yet that know how to do. Sure. Like it's more recently that you start seeing like guys like him where they're taking apart the whole motor, they're ceramic coating pretty much everything. They're taking all the bolts to their, replacing them with then putting like those sleeves on them and shit. Yeah. Like they're taking it to another quality, and it's cool to see those guys get in. And then at the same time, seeing like guys who are in cars, different custom, scenes in the cars getting into motorcycles.
Kyle and they have that. That was Kyle. He was he was building mini trucks. He's had a couple really sick ass mini trucks he's built over the years. So
yeah. And especially because the car scene's so much bigger. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's so much goddamn people in it. I mean, it's a giant in comparison to the motorcycles. So you imagine if all those builders started building motorcycles, what would come out of it? Yeah. It's really interesting to, think about what could be out of a lot of this stuff. But man, no, like you were saying, it is good to, but I think, like I said, I think it would be more in a good, like nature, like, but hopefully some of these guys start coming into some of these styles and start adapting out of, some of the big wheels. And I really don't have a problem with big wheels. It's just not my style. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
But you go to a bike show and
it's cool, man. Like, hold on. I was getting blown up with messages real quick. All right. But there's fucking, I think the big wheel thing's cool, and I don't think it's ever going to go away. The real scary thing about it, and I was trying to explain to a friend, is like a lot of to make big wheels, you got guys that know how to fabricate and can make can rake a neck out without buying a builder's kind of slip fit neck. Those slip fit necks and a lot of those companies could potentially go out of business because they didn't adapt their product lines to adapt to the newer styles of motorcycles and what people are doing with it, right? So you got So if those guys go out of business, then those easy does it kind of style bikes ain't going to be available anymore, which then might bring the value of big wheel baggers back up because it actually will take talented fabricators and builders to put those things together again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of a circle of life. That's what happened with choppers, man,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's a lot of shit going on. But yeah, man. It's just one of those things, man. It's hard, especially in Florida, man. You come to this scene like it's still, and it's hard to convince people. Hey, man, there's other cool shit out there. Like,
Well, I think the best way to convince people is just to do cool shit yourself and like and just lead by example, and then people are going to want to be on board with what you're doing. You know what I mean? Followers got to follow. You know what I mean? I'm a follower. Exactly. I don't give a shit. Like I tell people all the time, I was like, dude, if someone's doing something cool and that shit fucking like fits me, I'm all about it. Like I don't give a shit. Like I have no shame in that part because I'm not trying to act like I'm some kind of innovator. I'm a guy that I see someone do cool shit. And I'm like, fuck, I want to learn how to weld now because you do it or something like that. You know what I mean? And I think it's better to pay it forward and let people know about the people that inspire them rather than be like, oh, no, I just fucking had a dream one day, decided to be a fabricator, Yeah. That's why it's important to like for guys not to be a dick too, because that'll scare people away too, like especially when if they start getting inspired by some of the shit and some of these guys come off like dicks. Luckily, like the motorcycle scene is pretty goddamn welcoming. I mean, everyone I've met and
like it's been more recently where I'm starting to meet stuff, and it's funny because I'm starting to realize that most of them are just normal people.
Yeah.
Well, all of them are just normal people. You grow up like thinking like all these guys, especially, I always thought like just build motorcycles was just out of that reach, like that's just.
Nah, dude, anybody can do this shit. Anybody can get into it, but not everybody can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of trials to doing this shit, because just as much as you're trying to hone your skills and your creativity, then the business side comes down and you have to learn how to manage that side. And it becomes very like a very multifaceted type of learning curve to be successful in business and work on bikes, because essentially you're taking your hobby and you're applying creativity to other people's hobby, right? So you're so far down the line of necessity in life, technically not essential for right now.
Yeah, but I know, right? Yeah, like the furthest goddamn thing from essential.
Yeah. So it's like it's just one of those kind of things, man, and it's all good. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people can get into it. A lot of people, and when they do, it's helpful for us. You know what I mean? It's helpful for everybody, because the bigger the industry grows, even if it's just people wanting to learn how to do it. I mean, what Jesse James did with Monster Garage back in the day really brought a lot of people into wanting to be creative. You know what I mean? Because when I graduated high school in 01. When I was going to high school from 97 to 01, I believe, there was nothing about my high school education that told me anything about being any kind of tradesman. We had like vocational style classes, but they weren't really trying to push that on you. You know what I mean? They were trying to push computer science and coding and all this type of shit from the early days of the internet there. Like meanwhile, like the body shop, the welding shop, the what is it, fucking woodworking shop, the beauty, the cosmetology shit, like all that stuff was fucking, there was people smart enough to do it back then, but I was just fucking a dumbass, So I was just trying to get out of school, but it was just, nobody was pushing that shit. And then Monster Garage comes out and, everybody's building cool shit with their hands. I'm like, fuck, man, I want to do that. That seems so much more rewarding than working in an architectural office, making copies of drafting plans. You know what I mean? It just, there's no creativity in that.
Oh, I had that same exact realization when I was going to school. I mean, like I just realized, especially because I was pushed into it, when I was in high school, the trade school wasn't really like something my guidance counselor would tell me about, It was, no, go to a university, do this, and you should be an engineer. The world needs more engineers. But I mean, there's so many different ways you can go. Like there's so many different trades you can learn. And I think it's important for everyone to know at least one trade. Yeah. Shit, man. Even if you're going to a university and gonna get an engineering degree, go to learn how to learn a trade too. Yeah. Just in case, you'll always, if you know how to do at least one trade, you could always make a living, you're not going to be out on the streets. Yeah, I think that should be a requirement, honestly. I think that should be more of a, like, high school, maybe they extend it, like, hey, you're going to pick out a trade and you're like, stick to it. Because, if your shit falls apart, you're going to have this, you're going to have at least this one trade. And that's why it's a good thing to know multiple trades too. Because if you can do multiple different things, you can always figure it out. And there's something really cool about, having that safety where, it's a little freeing actually, where you're not stressing out. Like, what if this happened? What if I lose this? Well, I guess I can go back to that,
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to
skill I learned,
like having basic skills and certain things. Like for me, if I couldn't paint anymore, then, I could get a job doing like working on bikes. You know what I mean? Like I'm proficient enough with it, and the things that I'm not skilled at, I could learn quick. I just haven't done it. You know what I mean? Like I've never split cases, but I've also never tried. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, that's the majority of the battle.
Yeah. So, there's that, and like having that, and then, like the other things I'm into from like, not that photography is something I think I'd be able to make money at or anything like that, but that and fucking designing stuff on Photoshop and creating logos. Like, I know how to do all that shit. Not a cut. I got a vinyl cutter, so I can draw stuff on the computer and cut vinyl. You know, all those type of things are like careers that people have. Yeah. You know? So, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I agree. I try to, you know, I got an 18-year-old daughter, man. I'm trying to beat that in her mind, you know. She you know, she wants to go do like some nursing stuff at her college, which is cool and a good paying job, you know, especially right now. But it's a very high level stress job, I would think, you know what I mean? Just dealing with all that stuff.
Yeah. So. It's a shame too, especially, you know, when, you know, people are just blindly going into, you know, something, you know, like they just kind of, you know, I get it, I guess, you know, but,
well, when I was in high school, they weren't showing you a whole bunch of badass like bike builders saying, hey, go take welding classes and this is the kind of cool shit you can do. Like, it was never like that.
That's all they needed to do. They need to bring in someone, like, just hire someone that's like, who can relate to like teenagers, you know, just someone like cool, you know, that's all they need to do. And just show them like videos, like, this is what people who know trades, this is what they can do. You know, you can create stuff, you can build stuff that was never presented in high school. Like, it just wasn't like, it wasn't an option, you know. And we have trade schools around here. They kind of mention them, but they're like, you know, they almost like snob away from them. They're like, you don't want to go to a trade school. I still am a proponent of apprenticeships. I feel like, you know, trade schools are good for certificates in certain types of industries, but if you just go work in a shop if you were to spend the same amount of time showing up every day to go to work at a fabrication shop, you're going to learn so much shit. And if you're actually helping out the people that are doing the job, they're going to feel like, fuck, man, this dude really helped me out this week. You know, all right, next week I'm going to sit aside and we're going to work on this because I owe this guy now. You know what I mean? Like, it's a reward system or a trade-off system. You know, like, this is the first time I've ever had an apprentice. And right now he just painted his own helmet. And, you know, like, I spent most of today, like, working with him on him painting his own shit. And to me, I owe it to him because he's helped me sand so much shit that I just don't have time to do. And he did all the sanding and he's good at that. So I'm like, all right, well, bring your helmet up here. You're going to sand it down. You're going to paint it yourself, you know, and, you know, that's, to me, I owe him that because he's been busting his ass. You know what I mean? So that's what I think the good point of trade, you know, apprenticeships is worth it, you know? Oh, for sure. 100%, especially when you really think about it. Like, the cool thing about a trade school is you can get right on to what you want to do. But at the same time, you know, your average trade school probably costs like $5,000. So, I mean, when you look at an apprenticeship and you say, you know, people kind of skulk at like apprenticeships. They're like, I'm not going to go in 30 hours a week for free. Exactly. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, schools, you pay, like, when you're going to school, you're paying $5,000 and taking away, you know, 20, 30 hours of your time a week. Like, it's like, what's the difference? You know, it's like, you got a scholarship when you're going on an apprenticeship, and more than likely you're going to go right into that field. And that's, if I had to go back, what I would do, which honestly, I don't think I would really change much because I like where I'm at. And I don't like it. But like, if I really had to go back and I had to change something, I would have, instead of, especially because right out of high school, I made a lot of bad decisions and really didn't do much with my life other than I'm going to school for mechanical engineering, but I'm also going to party. But I'd go to, there's a shop, Saltworks here. They build custom cars. And every car, you know, builder or Corey, I'd go up to Corey and be like, hey man, like, I'll sweep your brooms or sweep your floors for free. I just want to be around here. Just be around there, you know, especially if there's any younger guys listening to this. That's the best advice, especially now when you have the time to do it. You know, you're not gonna, you know, when you're 18 to 20 something, go out and do that shit because it's going to be worth it eventually. And when you're around them, that's majority of the battle. You know, once you're around these guys eventually, and every single shop owner I've talked to, they're always like, well, I'm just looking for someone who wants to come in and sweep the floors and clean up stuff. And I'll teach them whatever the fuck they want. I'll teach them how to weld, you know? It's like, it's free knowledge, man.
And
you're going to be around people who have been in it for a while.
And you know, that's the same thing. Cause you know, like until Homeboy started coming here, I swept my floors every day, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, this is still the job. Like, you know, if you go out on your own or you get out of your school, like the way I like to tell everybody is like, look, go pay for your school if you need, if the trades that you're getting into does require some type of certificates, right? A lot of welding is a certificate based deal.
Yeah, it does, but sort of. It's a gray area. Yeah,
and so, you know, otherwise, like, go work for somebody. Go learn what it's actually like to be in the work environment, you know, and get that from the start going up, because it's a much different experience than being in a school where you're paying for something. You know, the dynamic is much different when you're in school versus when you come to my shop. When you come to my shop, I'm gonna, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna treat you like somebody that works at a shop. Like, this isn't, you know, some fucking office job where we got to watch our mouth. Like, no, you do some stupid shit, fuck face, you're gonna get called a fuck face. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna get used to that kind of shit around shops, you know. And you learn, and you know, like you realize that the dynamic of tradesmen where you're rewarded for hard work you know, and people don't really, they kind of weed out the weak, which is going to be the guys that want to just kind of lollygag around and not get shit done and just kind of milk the system. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of frowned upon in trades industries. You know what I mean? Yeah. So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, that's ultimately the way to do it too. And especially, you could get unlucky when you go to some of these trade schools. I'm not trying to talk shit about trade schools, because I know I just talked it up. You had a great
teacher that worked with you.
Yeah, but you can get a teacher, you know, and they might not know anything about that. They might be a teacher for the reason that they can do it, you know?
Yeah.
That's a scary part of it. You know, I was very fortunate. My welding instructor was a real slick guy. He was just in his 70s and he didn't want to retire. He wanted to do something.
Yeah.
he knew he couldn't weld every day. So, but especially with welding too, the one thing they're not going to teach you at that trade school, if you actually want to build stuff, they're not going to teach you how to fabricate unless you're lucky and you get that instructor that knows how to fabricate, because fabrication and welding is very different. Welder, you know, I mean, that's important to learn how to weld, and that's something that you got to do. Like, you just got to do it a ton of times just to get good at it. It's like anything else, but you just have to constantly just run as many joints as possible to do it and get really, really good at it. But they're not going to teach you how to fabricate. Who will teach you how to fabricate is that shop that you'll be sweeping the floors on. They'll teach you what, you know, the heat does to metal, like where it's going to pull, where you're going to want to do like to stop it from pulling which way, or what order you're going to want to run those welds to get it to pull the correct way, like how to square something up. They don't teach you how to square something up in welding school. Yeah. They just teach you how to weld, you know? Yeah. And there is a trick to it, you know? Yeah. The heat will pull it a certain way. You know, there's certain ways of clamping stuff down. There's certain ways of building jigs, you know, and the guys that are going to really know that stuff are the guys that are building stuff. But that's why apprenticeships are so important, you know. And it's a shame though, because I think a lot of young people they don't really value knowledge as much, you know. That's why apprenticeships are kind of hard to find, because you really got to be about it to want to, you know, do that just for the sheer knowledge, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's definitely hard, and it's a hard sell too to people. But at the same time, logically, if you throw it on table, you know, like the only difference is that if you go to a trade school, you can usually get some kind of financial aid or government assistance. The way I look at it is, if you're in high school and you graduate and you're looking for a trade to get into, and you're still at home and home's not up your ass to do stupid shit, then start apprenticing somewhere. It doesn't have to be, I mean, in any trade, photography, this fucking, you know, welding, mechanics, all that shit.
And it's free school. Yeah. like It's so funny when you try to explain that to someone, and it's like, dude, it's fucking free school, and I'm like, they're looking for people. Trust me,
Yeah.
like they're crying out. Like that local shop I was talking about, they've been posting. They're looking for all sorts of people to work for them. They're never running out of work, really. But man, yeah, man, that's good. You got an apprentice, though. It's cool to see, someone actually. You don't hear about apprenticeships anymore.
He
Like,
reached
you
out to
really
me,
don't.
man. He reached out to me, and he ended up being a perfect fit. And he rides bikes. He's a much older guy. He's like 34, but he just made a lot of smart decisions in life, and he's at a point now where he has the kind of time to dedicate to it and learn the craft. And he's been a big help for us. Like I said, I like working with people, and I don't have a problem sharing any of my secrets and stuff. It's just more like when someone's interested in what we do, their passion for what we do brings out my passion for what I do. You know what I mean? And I want to share it, So it's a positive kind of reinforced thing that's going on here. So I dig it.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
You basically feed on.
Yeah. I need to wrap this up. I got like a fucking, I guess I can say this now because it'll be past tense, but I got like a whole bunch of people outside the shop ready to come in and party right now. So,
oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. But,
all right.
Yeah, we're doing it on the down low. But no, man, I really appreciate you doing this, man. I'm a big fan. And like I said, we'll definitely do some more, you know what I mean? Like I've been following you ever since the day I saw your bike there at Ace Cafe. So excited to see all your shit you're doing, man.
Yeah, man. No,
So
I'm super excited to be on this.
Where can everybody find you at and stuff to go follow you on Instagram and Facebook, any of that shit or what?
Facebook and Instagram, it's Kyle Ray Rice. That's pretty much all the social media I have. But yeah, and I'll answer whatever questions. I mean, like I said, I'm not really super professional, but
that's all good. None of us are.
I can help what I can,
Yeah.
can tell you what I did.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it a lot, man. Thank you for doing this during this epidemic and all that shit. And
yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, stay safe, man.
All right,
have a good night.
We'll talk to you later, buddy. Peace.
All right, see you.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Please check out our sponsors, teamdreamrides.com, painthuffer.com, fastlife13 for 10% off, shoptmax.com, and lexan-moto.com with fastlife at checkout for 15% off. Hope you guys are staying safe out there and having a good time in quarantine or being essential, depending on which end of that you are on. If you guys are interested in this podcast and supporting it, you can always go to our website, fastlifegarage.com, and become a Patreon supporter. $1 a month is all it takes, and that basically helps us keep this thing going through pandemics and shit. So anyways, really hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. We'll be back again. We'll be having proper baggers back on here. Daniel's a good friend of mine, and really good guy to talk to. So looking forward to having that. We'll be releasing that one on Thursday. So you guys have a good week, and we'll see you back later. Peace.